welcome back to the 5 Bass Players, 1 Song series. I am so excited to continue to be part of this. I'm so happy. Thank you, Bass Channel, for having me be part of this. And extra exciting, this is my song. Just like, yes. Okay, so the song that we're doing today, that a bunch of bass players from around the world are doing, I'm so freaking excited, you guys. Can you tell? Can you tell? Okay, is off my latest album. It came out in May, and it's called Heaven is a Ghost Town. So this song is called Cross to Bear, and I have notes because I have to make sure I answer all your questions. Okay. So first, I know you guys, this is a gear channel, so let's just get it out of the way. What gear am I using? So I used my, you guys know, my Spectre Euro 4LX. This is the bass that I used on that record, and I used it on the whole record, and I'm going to show you guys what effects I used. But so I recorded this, you know, a while ago, and so lately I've been using I always use like my IK multimedia, and then I'm using parallax, and I'm using like specific amp emulation effects. But in this one, I looked at the session, I was like, there's no amp emulation on the bass track, which I just thought was really interesting. As you can see, there's no IK multimedia, there's no bass amp. I'm using the Waves multiband dynamics, right? And there's a few other things. There's Pro EQ, where I'm pumping up the mids and I'm taking down some of the highs to make it more clear, and then another Pro EQ, and then also the Abbey Road saturator. So this is just a saturator. So I had a producer work on this, and he mixed and mastered it, and he's the one that really set up all of these EQ settings and everything, and that's why I'm a little bit fumbling around. I'm trying to explain to you what happened here, but I just want to let you know, and I always say this, he did an amazing job, but I am not a mixing and mastering engineer at all. I know what my skill set is, and so that's why now when I do sessions, I put in amp emulation because I understand amps. I understand like what settings I need and everything like that. When it comes to EQs, and I'm always blown away, especially when Chris from the Bass Channel will say like, oh, I cut this hertz and I pump this hertz, and I'm learning so much from you, Chris, so thank you, on like what areas of the frequency to change in order to get certain sounds, and it's incredible. So, you know, there's people that have so much knowledge out there about that, and I'm just saying, like, I'm not one of them at all, so don't feel bad if you aren't either. You can learn. If that's something you're into, you can learn too. Just watch these guys like Chris, watch mixing engineers, and just watch what they do. And that, you know, that's how I learned everything I know, is just by watching other people and making a lot of mistakes. And that's how you figure stuff out. And then you'll find like what works for you. And then you'll also find things you don't understand. Then you just go on YouTube and search for it, and somebody's got an answer for you. So I wanted to talk about the bass line, right? Because this is the Bass Channel, right? And so, but you guys know, I keep drilling it home to you guys that I am a songwriter and a bass player. Just depends on the day which one I'm more of. But really, I am a songwriter and a bass player, like those two things. So this bass line to me is, there's literally nothing special from a riff perspective. I'm doing nothing fancy, nothing fantastic, nothing that's going to blow anybody's mind, right? And the reason is because when I first started songwriting, a lot of the feedback would be, I can't understand what you're saying. So it was really important to me for, you know, as a songwriter, as I got better as a songwriter, for people to be able to understand what the heck I'm saying. Because I don't sit and stress over lyrics for people to not understand what I'm saying, right? When I'm singing a line, right, the bass is really just doing nothing. It's literally doing the job of the bass, which is, I mean, holding it down. Let's be honest. It's always holding it down, but it's connecting the rhythm to the melody, right? So I'm literally connecting the drums to the vocals. Like I'm just a connector, right? I'm a conductor. I mean, you know, I'm just like playing the notes of the chords, but just holding down a rhythm, right? So that the vocals can do their thing, right? Because it kind of is an open song. And so I find it very interesting that you know, Bass Channel and I talked about what song do you want to use for this, and I thought this one would be perfect because it's not like identifying specifically what a bass line could be. I thought it was really open to interpretation. Like people could come in and do all kinds of stuff on this song, but it's a choice not to. And that's the choice that I made as a songwriter, is to not play a bunch of stuff, to not riff out, because I really wanted the vocals to shine, because I'm looking at the song as a whole, right? As a whole package. So this song is about it's about compassion. It's about how people don't, they act like, oh, I'm so compassionate. Oh, I care about, the starving children and the homeless people. But then when they actually have a chance to do something about it, will they do it or not? And so really the question, and it's not my opinion, it's not how I feel, as a good songwriter, I'm just throwing the question out there because I want people to ask themselves, I want them to think. And guess what? People don't want to think. So you got to coerce them. You got to coerce them into thinking, right? So that's why the beginning of the song is so sweet, and I'm singing so sweetly, and I'm painting this picture of a situation. Like the first verse is about, there's a blind man, and it's like, and they're walking, and they're just all alone, and they're lonely, right? So I'm trying to sweetly get into their hearts. I'm at the point where they're saying, oh, yes, I would totally help them. Oh, yes, I would. Right? And then when I get to the chorus, I'm like, bam! Well, you would if you could, but you won't. What if you were them? Like, that's where I'm just like, bam! I'm like, really? Really, would you? So that's what I wanted the song to do. I didn't want the song to be like, wow, listen to that bass. But side note, the bass tone is so awesome that you kind of do say, wow, listen to that bass. And this bass tone mixed with the album is such a good mix, and everything sounds so good. I mean, the producer that works on this, he did such a great job. So if you guys want to hear the rest of the album, just saying, you can stream this everywhere, literally everywhere. Okay, so now I know you're going to hear bass players talk about the bass lines they chose, the gear they chose, and all the rad riffing that they did, and I'm really excited to see that too. But I just wanted to explain why I made this choice to play hardly nothing. I'm playing the whole time. But, I needed to make a blanket of sound, and that was my goal. And so this is an example I wanted to tell you guys. Think about like other songs that are like theme songs for people. I mean, theme songs that people are, they're years old and people still remember them. Like Lady Gaga or something, right? Like Born This Way, right? Everybody knows that. Everybody know, all of you guys, whether you're a Lady Gaga fan or not, I know all you guys, you all know that song that I'm talking about, right? Now, sing the bass line. Nobody knows the bass line. Nobody knows that. Let's be honest, there's no electric bass on that song. There's only programmed bass or keyboard bass, whatever. There really is no bass line, because that wasn't the point of that song. The point of that song was to be like a theme song for everybody that felt like left out, so that everybody could be like, yeah, that's me. I'm me, and I'm proud to be myself, even though I might be different. That's kind of what I think that song's about. I'm sure everybody thinks different things about each song. But that's the beauty of writing a great song, is that people can make that song their own, and they can make it their own theme song, right? And that song, let's be honest, that's millions of people's theme song is Born This Way. People love that song. But can anybody sing the bass line? No. But anyway, I digress. What my point is that I literally played hardly anything special on this song. And I'm really excited to hear what other bass players play on this song. I am so excited to hear people from around the world playing on my song. I am so freaking happy about this. And Bass Channel, thank you again for having me. And I look forward to doing more of these. I think this series is so great because we get to hear different perspectives from so many different people. People look at things so differently, and it's so wonderful because it's such a learning experience. Like you've had us answer the question, what did we learn from other bass players to incorporate in this new one? Obviously, nothing for me, because this was already recorded before the series ever started. But in other episodes from this series, I have completely learned from other bass players. And I'm really inspired. I freaking love this. And thank you for having me. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Hey, so everybody, I forgot to tell you, don't forget to check out my live streams every Saturday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on my channel and also on my Frantic Ginger channel. I teach my bass lines. I teach whatever other bass lines. And I know some of you have come over there and we have so much fun there. It's such a cool bass community. So don't forget to show up on my live stream every Saturday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay, let's play bass.
AMP the bass player here, longtime listener, first time caller. Let's just jump right in. So my first impression upon hearing the song was that this is a conscientious guitar player because he left a lot of room for bass. The bass I ended up reaching for was my Sterling Stingray. I picked this up out of the bargain bin at a Guitar Center because it had a Widow Owie down here. So for about 250 bucks, this is a really, really good Stingray. From the bass, I'm going into a Scarlett Solo audio interface, and then I'm recording in Logic. I started from the Modern Stack preset. It gave me the aggression I was looking for and a lot of that high-end clarity, and then I just dialed in just a little bit more low-end fatness with the low switch, and then added a compressor and a couple of other tiny little details, and I ended up with this really syrupy sound. In fact, it's pretty interesting. If you roll the treble off on this bass, you kind of get into like Joe Dart territory. But for this recording, I left the onboard controls completely flat. I'm kind of trying to channel a little bit more Ryan Martini, if you guys remember Mudvayne. We're gonna bring him back at the end too. So when I got into the writing process here, the big problem that I had was that I was having a hard time locking in with the kick drum. So I ended up just like writing it all out to try and make sense of it, to understand the pattern a little bit better. And then I just picked the specific notes that I wanted to kind of highlight. As I'm sure all of you know, the bass is sort of the bridge between the rhythmic elements and the harmonic elements of the song. So I just made it my goal for the entire song to just justify everything that the kick drum does. For about the first 2/3 of the song, I keep it really, really simple. And then doing my best to just sort of compromise when the kick drum and the vocals are a little bit out of sync in the part. And then into the chorus, I'm still making it my goal to just lock in with the kick drum. And then I'm also playing notes like they're charging me for every one that I play. Keeping it uber simple, establishing a precedent so that I can break out later on in the song. So I don't do anything at all crazy until we get to the guitar solo, and then I kind of let myself do a couple of really simple fills. But I'm still staying in this range of the fretboard, below the 5th fret, because those are the money notes, and God knows I need to get paid. It's like the Joker says, if you're good at something, never do it for free. Unless you're collabing with the bass channel. I'm just kidding, I'm actually like super stoked to do this. After the guitar solo, I'm using one of the techniques that's been discussed in this series where I just completely drop out. I'm letting a lot of space happen, a little bit of an interesting fill to bring the bass back in, and it sounds real nice. And then we have another guitar interlude, and again, I'm just keeping it pretty simple and straightforward, letting the guitar have his moment. And then right after that, where the vocalists come back in, I'm recalling a little bit of that Ryan Martini thing. There's this slight octave fill that he always did, and I really, really liked it, and I use it a ton. And I wanted to put it in this song where it would have the greatest amount of impact. So I'm underneath the vocal, and it's not so distracting, but it's this nice little variation, and I think it works out really, really well. And then the very next little section, I kind of cheat a little bit. Hey, put your pitchforks down, okay? This is fine. It's fine. I wanted to go down to the low D in this last section, but I didn't want to have to tune to drop D tuning because I just really prefer standard. I guess I'm sort of a boring bass player like that, but whatever. You know, thinking about this now, I can almost guarantee that one or two of the other bass players who do this are going to be using 5 strings. I would bet money on it. But yeah, I'm kind of a boring bass player, like only like standard tuning, and I can only ever count to 4, like 4 strings on a bass, 4 chords in a song, 4 beats in a measure, you get it. For the past couple years, I've been doing a lot more like soul and funk and pop. Think like Stevie Wonder and Prince and Bruno Mars. That's kind of where my head's been at. And so doing something this heavy, like this metal, is kind of out of my wheelhouse these days. And so this was a fun challenge, and this is what I came up with. I hope you enjoy.
Hello everyone, this is Pierre from Italy. Thank you for watching this video, and especially thank you to the bass channel for having me. I have a bass related channel on Instagram. If you like, you can check it out. It's called BassPorn. I think you'll find lots of interesting pictures there. I especially enjoyed being in this video because I think it's a very interesting project. That is to give the same song to several bass players and see what they come up with. It's very interesting to watch, but I can tell you that I know now it is especially interesting to be a part of. This is because you will not only think of the song in abstract terms, but you will also have to come up your own part. And after you've done that and recorded that, that's where the fun part begins, because then you get to see what other bass players like yourself came up with and see what take they had on the same material. And I'm honestly looking forward to that, to see what it is that other bass players came up with. It'll be very cool to know. So, especially for this, thanks for having me. As far as the gear I used, I listened to the song and I saw there was an opportunity to make the lower register shine with a low D and especially a low B. So I decided to go with this bass. It is a Desert Custom by Mauricio Costa, the MG bass. It's a beautiful axe, check it out. She has maple, mahogany and wangi, buckeye burl, wangi, and swamp ash body. It's a neck through construction, you can see. Because it's a neck through construction and because it's a 35-inch scale, I think it makes the lower register really shine. As far as pedals instead, I decided to go with my not so secret weapons. My Darkloss Alpha Omega preamp, where you can see my regular settings. I have a bass boost and a mid center and a high cut. That's how I like it. I don't usually use the distortion circuit, but it does have this very cool distortion circuit, as well as my Darkloss Super Symmetry. No, I mean Hyperluminal, which is the follow-up to the Super Symmetry. I call it that because I use it typically in the Super Symmetry setting, which is my favorite. This is what I normally go for. That's it. No other gear, just the bass, the preamp, and the Darkloss. The bass does have an active preamp, but I typically don't push that. I like to do that with the Darkloss because it does have some awesome tone. As far as composition, I decided that I wanted to keep things fairly simple. That's why I used no pedals, no special sound. I wanted the sound to be fundamental and rock solid. I don't know if I was able to achieve that, but that was my intention anyway. I wanted the sound to be very focused on the fundamental tones and very much in line with the song's harmony. Which is fairly simple harmony, so it does leave space for some jamming, if you will, or for some freedom. Decided not to use that for most of the song where the singer was performing. Decided to stay behind the singer and support the song. That was my idea. I gave myself a bit more freedom, a bit more pentatonic freedom in the last part of the song where the solo happens. I decided to go a bit around the fingerboard to give some more depth to the solo. There was no singer to perform at that moment, so I wasn't getting in the way of anybody, and I felt it was a showcase performance section of the song, so I decided to allow myself a bit more freedom, and that was that. That's how I decided to approach this song. Like I said, I am very curious to see what others decided to do in terms of tone as well as in terms of composition. Again, thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to watching the video and watching many others, as I'm sure there will be, because this is a very interesting series. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bass channel. It's Chris Chilton here from New Zealand, and thanks very much for this opportunity. I've been watching the Bass channel since it was not the Bass channel, and love what you guys do. Really appreciate the opportunity to have a bit of a play with Nicki Tedesco's really cool song, Cross to Bear. So I'm just going to talk through how I approached it. Obviously, Chris sent me the file, I had to listen to it. Just wanted to find out what the key was, listening for some melodic cues, listening to the drums and guitars, trying to figure out what sort of bass line I might apply to it. So I selected the bass that I was going to use, and I decided I was going to use my Mike Durant signature Fender Precision, which I've just recently got. Nice bitey tone, good solid precision sound. And I played that through my Frank Appleton FEA Labs Optifett compressor, and straight into a Sansamp bass driver DI. Set on a little bit of medium drive just for a bit of bite, nothing too complicated about the setup. I didn't plug into my amp because I didn't really have the facility to do that. I'm just into a DAW straight out of that. So basically this is a signal from my bass through my effects into software, which is Cakewalk by BandLab. And I'm using an M Audio Air 192/4 interface. So that was my setup. And on this one, pretty much straight away, unusually, because I'm a kind of straight ahead sort of bass player, usually I'm nothing too frilly or technical. I usually just stick to the kick drum, you know, stick real tight to it, like to really get into the groove of what's happening with the drums. But on this one, unusually, because the drummer was doing his own thing, it was moving in his own direction, he kind of had some real offbeat, sort of held back type patterns going. And the guitars were kind of kicking it, and I really felt that I was going to follow the guitars on this one straight away. So for the most part, that's what I did. So pretty much ignored the drums, apart from, you know, trying to keep in tempo and everything.
When they need a helping hand, will you help them along? When there's no one else that can give them something that's wrong.
So the second thing was I figured out some parts, got a few runs going. I could hear some flowing runs, but I didn't want to overdo it, so I kind of held them right back till the end. But I had a few little riffs and tricks that I wanted to throw in there, apart from keeping it pretty solid and pretty tight, pretty go ahead. I did a few takes just to sort of get into the groove, get my fingers warm, get it happening, and it was about the fifth take, I think, out of 6 that I liked the most. They were all pretty much of a muchness, really. Once I'd figured out what I was going to play, the same thing kind of kept coming up. So I didn't want to overdo it. It's a little bit rough in terms of, it's kind of bitey, kind of aggressive. I was really digging in hard. In fact, the most complicated thing about it was setting up the video, because, again, I didn't really have the technology to be able to do something really cool. So I just hit play on the video and managed to capture the take that I ended up using, which is the one that you're going to hear. Only thing was that I found out afterwards the camera had kind of slipped and it was had cut my head off. So I grabbed one of the earlier video takes and kind of spliced it a little bit so you can see a bit of me and it's mostly my bass, my fingers, my hands, what I'm doing, which I guess is more interesting for anybody who's really into that stuff than looking at my mug. So yeah, there you have it. That's how I approached it, that's what I did with it, and that's where we ended up. Hope you like it. I'm really, really interested to hear what the other 4 bass players have ended up doing with this song. I really like the song, Nicki, it's very cool. Reminded me of some sort of semi-gothic kind of hard rock type thing. Kind of had an 80s, maybe 90s vibe to it, which is right in my zone. I love that stuff. But yeah, again, I'm really interested to see what the other guys heard and did with it, and especially what you did with it, Nicki. So cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
So, my tone of choice for this song was a Fender Jazz bass plugged into a Sans amp bass driver. Nothing fancy though, just a bit of EQing and a slight amount of gain. When writing bass lines, I always try to think about what's best for the song. In this case, apart from the Glenn Hughes fill on the intro, I pretty much try to stay in the pocket throughout the whole song really, with the odd fill here and there. As Nicki suggested in one of the previous episodes of 5 Bass Players 1 Song, I tried to remain true to my own style of playing and just did what felt natural to me at all times, really, without stepping on too many toes, hopefully. So yeah.